Hi there and welcome back to Pierpoint Custom Rod Building and Repair. In this video we're going to show you the rod building jig, which is a support frame that we use here at Pierpoint when we're carrying out rod repairs. It's available to you through our website, so it's available for all rod builders, and you might find this as a useful step up from your typical cardboard boxes and bobbins, and certainly before you move into using a power wrapper. So it's a good intermediary rod building tool. So first of all, we've got a couple of side rails. Each rail is sculpted so that it holds a fishing rod, and it's coated with a felt material just to protect it. Down the side we've got a couple of cup hooks, and I'll show you what those do in a moment. So the two rails, down the ends we've got two threaded bolts, and then we've got a slotted piece of timber here, and that's got two holes so that they fit nicely over the threaded bolts at the end of the support frame, and that just drops into position like that, and then we can secure those in place by using these washers and wing nuts, and that just gives the whole support frame just a bit of stability. Do those hand tight, so we've got one on each side, so that just supports it. Quite easy to put together, quite easy to do. Now we've got the thread carriage, which is this block here, and we've got a central hole drilled there, and we've also got a hole drilled there, and this thread carriage moves up and down that slotted groove, and we fix that in position by using another bolt that comes up through the slot and drops through that central hole there, and then we fix that into position with a washer and another wing nut. And this just needs to be fairly loose so that your thread carriage moves up and down there, and it can twist as well if it needs to. Now through this hole here is where your thread is going to be mounted, so we use this bolt, and you can use a big spool of thread or a slightly smaller one. Okay, so that goes through there like that, and we secure that in place with a hexagonal nut, and it's specially designed so that once it gets to the end it binds into the timber so it stops it from moving. So we just do that hand tight, stop that from spinning round. Then we need to locate our spool of thread on there. Now that's going to twist around, so we need to apply some tension to that. So what we have is a specially designed compression spring for Pierpoint. We've got a special washer that goes on first, followed by the spring, another washer, and then we've got a wing nut to obviously tighten that up. So that's how we get our tension onto the spool of thread. Okay, you tighten that right up, and that compresses the spring and holds the spool in place, and then that just allows us then to take off the thread as we need it without it overrunning. Okay, so now we've got the tensioning rod, and it's got an eye at the top, and that fits into this hole up here. Okay, and that applies a little bit more tension to your thread. So once we've located that, the thread will go through either both of these eyelets or just one. Okay, so we're going to put it through the central one, and then it goes through the eyelet, and then once it's done that, the thread then goes through the eye of the tensioning rod. Okay, and that just gives a nice bit of tension to your thread. Okay, so once we've got to that stage, we now need to secure the frame to the workbench. So we use these G-clamps. They're not available as part of the pack, but you can get those from your local DIY stores, and that just holds that into position, so just one on each side like that, and that makes that frame nice and sturdy for when you come to do your rod repairs. So now you're in a position to get the rod that you're going to be working on, so a spinning rod or something. So it'll take spinning rods and boat rods and beach rods, and that'll fit nicely into that sculpted bit. So we hold that in position by using these elasticated bands on the cup hooks that I showed you earlier. So that's one on that side, and then we just put one on the opposite side, and that rod is not going anywhere. And that distance there is maintained so that when you're doing your bigger rods that the guides don't hit the workbench. So we're going to get a guide, so all we do is we just attach that to the rod, okay, like you would do normally. Okay, so we secure that in position, and then you just take your thread as if you're going to be doing a guide wrap, and then you can move that up and down to the correct location. Okay, so that's why it's called the thread carriage, so that it moves, and then we're just going to wind that round a few times. Okay, and then we bind this thread onto the rod. okay, like you would do normally. Okay, give it a few turns, make sure you cross over that thread so it doesn't come undone, and you can move the rod up and down as well if you wanted to. It's quite flexible. Okay, it's a neat piece of kit. Like I say, it's an intermediary from your cardboard boxes and before you move into the power wrapper. And the beauty of the tensioning rod, of course, and the tension on the spool is that you can just leave that and walk away, go and do another job, go and talk to another customer, answer your phone, and that won't unravel itself. So once we've done that and you've got that into a decent position, you want to trim off this tag end. So you just use your single-sided razor blade and then you just give that a trim. And we've got this magnet attached to the right hand rail so that you can actually house the knife out of the way so you're not constantly looking for it. That just sits up there and saves you getting cut as well. Okay, whilst we're doing that, the tension's been maintained on that thread and it's just about right. Now if you've got a slightly longer rod and you want to support either end of that, there's an additional piece included in the pack, again suitably protected and sculpted, that you just put on the end of the bench using another G-clamp just to secure that in place, and it will just support the end of that slightly longer rod, just like that. You can use it either side, so if it's the tip section that you want to support up this end, then obviously you just do the same, get it underneath the tip and then just use your G-clamp just to put that into position. So there we go, that is the rod building jig, the Pierpoint support frame that we use when we're carrying out our repairs. It's available on our website. It retails at $69.99 plus delivery. We distribute all over the UK, Europe and the rest of the world, and hopefully that's going to contribute to your rod building journey. So don't forget to log into YouTube, subscribe to our channel, and you'll pick up plenty more hints, tips, tools and techniques, and hopefully that'll help contribute to your rod building journey. If you've got any questions or anything like that, then just find us on Facebook and message us, and we're always quite happy to help, and especially if you've got questions on rod building. So there we go, that's the rod building jig, the rod building support frame. Thanks for watching.